Hello, welcome to this edition of Digital Badge Academy's webcast series. I'm Jim Daniels, your co-host, here along with fellow co-host David Leeser, who's going to kick us off today and introduce today's guest. David?
Yeah, we have a great guest today. It's Duncan Cox from the Learning Economy Foundation, and we're going to talk about LERs, digital wallets, and the whole skills first movement and how Duncan is making a difference in that area. So thank you, Duncan, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. So Duncan, you're involved in some really interesting initiatives and projects. Um, Particularly in the space of digital wallets and that. Why don't you just give us kind of an overview of your background, where you come from, what you're focused on these days, and some of the things that you're specifically involved in as it relates to, um, you know, driving programs and things to create equity for those that are out there trying to get their skills and, what they know and what they can do known and published and visible.
I got my start off in the video game industry. So I went to University of Utah for a undergrad in video game design, and I was really passionate about it. I love the process. I love the design industry in general. So right after I graduated, I went and taught English in Japan. And while I found out I didn't like classroom teaching very much, I did find the education industry really, really fascinating. So when I got back from that, I did a little hop around between different, media interactive design, kind of education adjacent things until I got to Learning Economy Foundation, where what we do is really a fusion of all these things I'm passionate about, which is designing really interactive, open source technology for issuing, earning, storing, and sharing digital badges in verifiable credential format. And one of the big goals we have is to create a marketplace, an economy, hence the learning economy name, on top of learners' experiences. So an economy where a learner could, just like mobile phones and the App Store, provide a space for a giant marketplace of applications of value. We want to do the same thing with digital wallets and learner credentials, where people can apply for jobs or pursue further training or get paid by states, governments, et cetera, for their learning experiences.
So it's really interesting. And you said something that kind of resonated with me, starting out as in game design, and somehow that kind of morphing into this world around credentialing and in the education space. It seems like that world of game design and related kinds of disciplines and the world of education come together more often than we think. My own son has actually found himself in a similar situation, so which is why that resonated the way it did. It's as far as I know that there is, and I'm really eager to kind of jump into this. So if I'm getting ahead of myself, somebody keep me honest here. But I was doing a little bit of investigating online and looking at this Learncard. Um, is it a software developer kit? I admittedly haven't spent a ton of time looking at it, but I saw the acronym SDK associated with it. So maybe you can kind of tell us what that's about, the Learncard piece is about. And it sounds like, open source, that it's something that a lot of people could, or anyone could tap into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Learncard is a couple of things. First, it is a SDK for developing digital wallets. We worked in partnership with the W3C group that developed the Universal Wallet 2020 spec. So we were pretty heavily involved in that process. And that is what Learncard is based off of. And so we have this SDK where you can create a digital wallet. You can, borrow everything from the application, whether it's the user interface elements, some of the data structures. We have an API for issuing credentials. But what Learncard is a freely available application on the App Store, also as a web app. So I can share my screen if you want to see it. So there we go. This is my Learncard on the web app form. It's also available as a mobile app. But what it is just a digital wallet for verifiable credentials. And so I have a bunch of different credentials in here. I'll hop into my courses here and show you. So right here, we have a lot of my LearnFleet Academy credentials. This is a fake little academy we created. All of these credentials were created by what we call the admin dashboard, which is a tool for institutions, especially smaller institutions, to manually create digital credentials from spreadsheets and then push them to a digital wallet all in one step. And I can walk through that later too. But what you can do is, check out my digital credential here. It's got my course type and all of this metadata. All of this stuff is very, very easily customizable via spreadsheet or manually. I can hop in and see my skills here. These skills are, again, customizable. So you've got things like out of the box thinking, but you could put, things from ONET, or you could put things from Lightcast or whatever you want into here, filter in this metadata. And you can attach things like images, videos, etc., into these digital credentials. And so this is just one form in which the credentials look like. They can just kind of look like this.
So the videos and things like that, essentially the ability to attach evidence.
Exactly. Yeah. Ability to attach evidence.
So you can create and issue badges, and then they go into this LER, really, right? Which is Learncard. Mm-hmm. It's not really a badge backpack. It's really an LER that can pull from multiple sources.
Exactly. Yeah. So what you can do is you can pull directly from systems of record. We work with partners to directly integrate with systems of record at institutions. So whether it's SIS, LMS, hiring systems, payroll systems, etc., we can pull from there, or any sort of verifiable credential issuance platform. Right? If you can issue a verifiable credential, you can issue one into a Learncard. You can also manually create your credentials using that admin dashboard I mentioned earlier, right. Or you can create credentials inside of the digital wallet. So we call them boosts. We've kind of extended the verifiable credential schema a little bit to allow for that. So I'll create a social badge here, and we'll go to, let's see, Cowboy.
By the way, are you coming in as an administrator at this point, or are you coming in as an end user?
I'm coming in as an end user. Or an administrator.
So it could be a self-assertion in way, as long as there's evidence associated. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could do like horseback riding. I know how to ride horses. Not cowboy style. I do the English style. So I can change my display type here, make it a certificate. I can attach skills, etc. And so in this wallet, we have some just like pre-selected skills. So we'll do like strength and conditioning and agility and injury prevention. You need that for horses. But I could go in and attach media. So photos, documents, videos, links, etc. Describe what the boost is for, describe the earning process. I could even assign an expiration date. And what's even cooler is let's say I'm a teacher and all of my students have this application. We can federate this. So, it's part of an individual school or an individual learning environment. Like imagine one of our deployments of this is actually Scout Pass with the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts globally, right? It's with the World Organization of the Scout Movement. So I could assign admins who are troop leaders and just click plus, right? And they would have access to this horseback riding credential, right? And so I click next, I can preview my credential, and here it is. It's got, it doesn't have any rich metadata because I didn't fill it in, right. But you can put anything that you wanted in there and just manually create the credential. And so when I talk about things like directly pulling from system of record or using the issuer dashboard, that's essentially what you do. It's just a more bulk and data intensive process, right? But this is really what we do, right? We provide a platform for people to create, issue, and share digital credentials very easily.
the I love that the ability to be able to ingest information in bulk, to be able to create these different badge offerings or credential offerings. That's pretty clever. Yeah, I mean, this really kind of almost has an effect of sort of stopping a person in their tracks and having to kind of adjust their thinking. A lot of my time has been spent working in and around a lot of the big commercial digital credentialing platforms, right? So, you've got the Credlys, the Accreditables, there's Badge Cert, Certifier, on and on, right? There's a whole bunch of them out there. I think some of the newer up and coming ones are starting to think a little differently, but a lot of those systems, like for instance, what we were just looking at there, the ability to categorize all of your credentials into these different areas, right, to make them more manageable, and also I would think more consumable, to me would be a huge thing for an organization, an employer, for instance, who wants to really understand what your personal brand looks like from a credentialing standpoint, and to be able to ingest that in some way that makes sense and is orderly. That even an interviewer or hiring manager could take a look at it. Looks like that you all have kind of taken all of that into account in terms of considering not just the person who holds the credentials, but the person who might want to see them, review them, or look at them as part of a recruiting or hiring process even.
Yeah. One of the, I think, really cool things that we can do with Learncard. So the Learncard application I just showed you, if you go to learncard.app, anyone can sign up, use it for free. Issuing credentials is free, right? It's just a free public good tool that we put out in the world. If you wanted to deploy it yourself using the SDK, you could totally do that. And you can customize all of those fields. Everything, all of the UI elements are part of the SDK. So you could change courses to, certification programs, or you could get really granular. Like if you're in some sort of, medical training program, you could break it down by like phlebotomy and, bedside manner and whatever, and have all the different credentials, categories, really specific around medical skills. So that there's a lot of flexibility in how you display your digital wallet, from an institutional side, right? You can create a totally, branded wallet around what types of experiences you want to provide to your learner. They get it in verifiable credential format, and then they're able to do whatever they want with it and take it with them wherever they go. There's no sort of we use a decentralized storage infrastructure. So there's actually no data silo that a learner's wallet relies on. Once they have it in their digital wallet, they can take it with them anywhere throughout the world, as long as they can log into the system with their email or phone number or whatever sort of login they set up. They can retrieve it on any device. And if the institution closes down, if Learning Economy closes down, the digital credentials are still there, and they will persist in perpetuity.
Yeah. Duncan, what's your audience for this? Is it, because I noticed you mentioned the Scouts and some other groups like that. What are the age groups? Where do you start and where do you end with this?
We are really targeting ages 8 through 80, right? Lifelong learning and learner mobility. Our application, as you notice, it's a little more colorful, it's a little more fun, right? But that's not to say we couldn't do different types of Learncards or different Learncard, visual aesthetic, depending on what part of your career you're in, different categories of badges. So if I'm a young learner in K through 12, or if I'm part of the Scouts, right, I have a section for my hobbies or the things that I think are really fun. I have a section for digital credentials that my friends have issued me, right? Then you get into the kind of college space, you directly connect your digital wallet to your institution, and then you have all of your college credentials in there. And the Learncard application, depending on kind of what use cases you have, can sort of morph and change as you go throughout your learner journey. One of the big things I think is extremely useful, right, is for smaller digital credentialing programs that want to provide the mobility of a digital wallet to your learners, I think Learncard is an extremely useful tool because you can do it without, let's say you have 10 different types of credentials. You could actually just use the Learncard application to create those credentials just, from the screen, right? From a website. It would take, a handful of minutes to pull in all your metadata and then manually issue those to all your learners or share them via a QR code or a link, etc. You can create a super lightweight digital credential program in, an afternoon. And it would be, able to travel with your learners throughout their entire learning journey. So, yeah, if you're a larger institution, I think Learncard is also extremely useful. It's just a slightly more complicated process. But what we want to do is provide digital credentialing and learner mobility to everyone who wants it. And it's all standards based too. That's the other thing is, if you want to port to another digital wallet or if you want to take credentials from another issuer, do it, right? You can. That's the power of open standards.
Another thing that really strikes me here is, and I've gotten these kind of questions back when David and I were at IBM and we were initially building out IBM's digital badging program, right? There was all this concern about, we can't have too many badges because if we have too many, it'll dilute the value of, of the program, et cetera, et cetera. Or, we should only be badging or credentialing really high stakes things. And that was always at odds with me because I've always felt like anything can potentially be captured as a digital record that you could use at some point in your life journey, your career journey, whatever it may be. Low stakes things, high stakes things, everything in between. You just, you don't know today some of the things. I remember it was Wayne Skipper with Concentric Sky. I was at a conference. It was a One Ed Tech conference, and he was speaking, and he was talking about video gamers, and the degree of dexterity they have in their hands and fingers, in that, that they acquire the muscle memory, that kind of thing, after playing, video games for so long. In that, and his point was that is potentially a really strong skill for somebody that maybe wants to go into the military and, fly drones, or something like, I forget the exact analogy, but it just really made so much sense. And I think that what you've shown so far with this really puts into perspective how you need to think about all these things, right? Because in terms of how it's categorized, because it's very easy to put things in their proper place and so that they're defined in the right way, at the right levels, and it's very easy for somebody to come in and say, oh, okay, well, I'm interested in what you're certified in. Let me go look at that. I'll pop that category open and look and see what kind of credentials, or I, as a credential earner that has this wallet, I would assume I can just share what's in my certified category of credentials if that's what I want to do, and so on and so forth. So I think that's a huge plus in my mind that you all have factored into this. I think that's great.
Yeah, thanks. I agree, right? The extremely granular credential issuance. If you think about it, when I go to an institution of higher education and I get a bachelor's degree, right, that can be a really useful credential. But the fidelity of it is not quite there. And so if I apply for a job with just a bachelor's degree versus, a larger portfolio of my life experiences, I don't know exactly how successful I'm going to be, right? There are going to be other candidates that have other things, whether it be clubs that they were part of or hobbies that they engaged in that were relevant to the job posting, that potentially could make them a more successful applicant. And so with Learncard, right, what we want to do is we want to measure those granular experiences and provide learners the opportunity to capture what they do throughout their life from all the different sources. And so when they do go to apply for a job and there is something that's relevant, it's there, and it is machine readable, and it has all the rich metadata that they want to tell about themselves in a way that is more or less verifiable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, machine readability is key. Honestly, I think that that's a big plus, right? If you can have it machine readable, then it makes it a lot easier for ATS to go in and parse that stuff. One example that I thought of when you brought up the video gaming, right? We had a partnership with the Lego Foundation where we created a digital wallet for young learners developing holistic skills. We worked with a researcher to create this kind of holistic skills measurement system where young learners would do real world play activities. So designing a paper plane, right? Following instructions to build a paper plane, taking a picture of it, designing slight changes to the paper plane to make it fly further, et cetera. Going throughout this process of really low level creativity, following instructions, all the way to kind of self-directed creativity. And what we did along the way, like I said, is you take pictures. And when they're done with the whole process, they have each step of the process with really specific metadata around what they were supposed to do, what they actually did, and then what it was a combination of machine learning and then just a real human being assessing, their creativity level. And each of those little things is evidence along the way of their creative journey. And we were able to capture that and measure learners' creativity initially, and B, kind of prove that doing these activities, which were created by the Lego Foundation, actually enhances some of the lower level creativity skills over the course of 3 or 4 activities. It was a really short thing, so you spend 30 minutes maybe doing these activities, and along the way, they were developing those creative sub skills bit by bit. And without the granularity of capturing your learner achievements, we're not going to be able to measure that accurately.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think it's really important. It's not just for bachelor's degrees or, career and technical education specific credentials around certain skills. It should be for everything, as long as we know what the use case is going to be.
Yeah, you just double underscored something that is just hugely important, and that is the granularity, and having the granularity so that you can do analysis and you have data, and information that you can dig into to really, inform whatever needs to be informed. If it's an organization, right? If it's, an IBM or it's some other big company, that was the power of, or is the power of IBM's digital badging program, is the fact that it is granular. Now, it was a very challenging road to get to that point at times, because again, there were those who felt like, we're at risk of having too many digital credentials floating around out there. But because of the granularity and how that can be sat alongside employee demographic data, the insights, and the ability to go in and do data analysis on all of that and get real meaningful insight come back from that was just incredible. So I think that is really gets to the heart of why granularity is important in capturing all these things. And it's not just what you know and what you can do and what you've mastered, right? It's experiences, it's interests, right? It's it could be even things like involvement in community activities, give back, pay forward, and on it goes. And all of that is just so valuable.
Duncan, I have a question for you about pathways. Does your toolkit include something to progress talent, or how do you feel about that? What is there a need for that?
Yeah, I think pathways are incredibly important depending on what industry you're in. So helping design pathways for learners that are in, like I mentioned before, medical fields that have really clear structured ways to move forward, or in the trades, right? And in Learncard, we have a deployment of Learncard over at Montlow State Community College in Tennessee, where we work with the mechatronics program to kind of create pathways based on the courses that learners have taken to align with jobs for local manufacturers, right? So companies in, the kind of appliance manufacturing space and automobile manufacturing. I think, yeah, pathways, what is really important about them, I think, is not necessarily the pathway itself, because we can sit here and think about, abstractly what a pathway from, a high school degree to a certain career is, but actually doing an accurate and adequate assessment of a learner's, skills and achievements at the very beginning of their joining the system. So whether they're halfway through the pathway, whether they're just starting, right, whether they're long before what we thought the initial entry point for this pathway would be, I think that assessment point is really, really crucial. And so, there are actually a lot of really interesting assessment tools out there that can take in learner achievement, learner metadata, and kind of get to a more or less accurate point. But I still think we're actually not quite there yet if we're going to align really specific pathways, or sorry, really broad pathways, things for industries that don't have a totally clear path forward. So things like communication or human resources, right? With learner experiences, which can also be equally broad and kind of unclear what a learner actually wants to do. I think creating rich metadata is super important for that. But yeah, we're not entirely there yet in terms of our systems.
I totally agree with you too about, understanding on the front end, those skills and things, and even potential, right, of an individual, especially before they make the hard decision to head down some, path of learning and education, going into college and that kind of thing. David and I have had a lot of these discussions. In fact, there was even a LinkedIn post last week where I told a story about my son. I won't repeat it here, but I think it's really important to kind of, have those checks and balances in place on the front end before making those kinds of hard decisions, and having assessments in that, I think is a good thing.
Yeah. That makes me think, digital badging programs, from our perspective, are incredibly important, extremely useful, and they can't happen without the technology that people develop to create these programs, right? But a digital badging program without a really solid change management process is probably not going to succeed, right? At Learning
right.
Foundation, we provide the technology, but if you, as an institution or an organization or a training program, are not doing the hard work of gathering your data, understanding the needs of your learners, understanding the labor market around you, or the types of employers that your credential holders might go to, you're not going to have a whole lot of measurable success, which is, I think a lot of people are trying to sidestep the hard people work with fun new technology, and it just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Go ahead, David.
Oh, I was going to say, there's people, processes, policies, and tools, and everybody seems to be focused on the tools. And it's really the other three that are the ones that are the heavy lift, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to your point, I mean, I've seen a lot of digital badge programs come and go, and there are a whole lot of digital badge programs out there. And I'll just speak to the commercial industry space, right? I'm not even talking higher ed or anything like that. But there are a lot of really bad badge programs in place. And a lot of it is because it's not a static thing, right? You can't stand up a badge program for the sake of badging and expect it to really be in service of anything of value. They're living, breathing, evolving systems of, that are there to motivate, to engage, to build robust data sets and records. And there has to be a lot of things that come into play to determine what makes sense. If you're an organization, big enterprise company that's looking to launch digital credentialing, like one of the things David and I, we always start out with, in our program when we work with clients, we start out up front really building a foundation, before we even talk about, okay, what are we going to go credential? We start talking about what's important to the business, what's important to your potential target audience. How do you want the business to benefit from this? What's the longer term kind of vision, and building a mission statement. But we do all these things, which can feel really monotonous and tedious, and we see that, right? We see it on the faces of the clients we work with. It's a challenging step to get through, but once you get through it, you've got this just incredible, different way of looking at how these credentials are actually going to function and what they're going to be in service of. And then, of course, we go further and to build governance and operational frameworks and all these kinds of things, so that and the change management. In fact, even one whole phase of our process is all about change management. All about change management, because if you don't have that factored in, you're 100% right. These programs don't go anywhere. They tend to just die on the vine.
Yeah, so this has been really great having you here, Duncan. Where can people go to get involved with the work you're doing?
Yeah, there's a number of ways. First off, go to learncard.com and you can fill out an inquiry form and see, where you might be able to use Learncard. I'll walk you through the product and the open source SDK. We provide development services. So if you want to do your own custom stuff, but you don't feel like you have the technical capacity, we can help you with that. But also just, shooting us a message on learningeconomy.io saying what you're interested in. We work with a lot of different organizations, whether it's the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's T3 Innovation Network, or we with the World Bank have been involved in a Web3 Education Alliance. So we work in a lot of these kind of working groups and kind of community organizations that are trying to solve some of these really difficult challenges, whether it be from a technical perspective or a kind of process and change management perspective. And we're happy to support. As a 501c3 nonprofit, our broad goal is to help learners have control over their learning experiences and get good jobs and have a fulfilled and meaningful life. So we're happy to support anyone who agrees with that, right? Reach out on our websites or shoot us an email. We'll be happy to discuss.
That's fantastic. Duncan, thank you so much. This has really been insightful. I'm anxious to go out and dig into it even further myself and start talking to people about it. So I think it's fantastic that there are these kinds of innovations that are showing up that people can tap into. I think it's very needed, and it's addressing some pretty substantial gaps that have been there in the past. So anyway, thank you for being with us today and sharing all this good information.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Are you looking to launch a digital badging program or improve an existing one? Look no further than Digital Badge Academy. Our highly popular online masterclass will help you gain the skills and insights necessary to achieve success. Enroll now and start learning today.